welcome Belinda from Add Value Property Valuations. Now, to give our guests a little bit of an insight into who you are and why you are so wonderful at what you do, I'm just going to read a little bit about you. So you have over 17 years experience in the industry. You combine your expertise with a heartfelt commitment to empowering everyday Australians. Known as the Valuer in the digital space, you are a certified practicing property valuer, having inspected approximately 15,000 properties.
Yep.
And valued nearly $12 billion in real estate assets.
Yep.
You hold a bachelor in business with a major in property economics, fortifying your practical experience with a solid educational foundation. Also an associate member of the Australian Property Institute. Additionally, since 2014, you have been a registered tax agent.
Yeah.
Specializing in tax depreciation schedules and property-related tax valuation reports.
You make me sound a lot smarter than I probably already am. So, Courtney, thank you.
Calm down, overachiever.
Just a chick that likes property. So, been doing it for a while. So, straight out of high school, went to uni and been valuing ever since. Bounced around a little bit, but as they say, you can take the girl out of vows, but you can't take vows out of the girl. So
I love it.
Here I am.
So what prompted you to go into property valuations?
I don't know about you guys, but I had my parents in my ear like, you must go to uni, you must study, you must go to uni. So I've gone, okay, well, I don't really need to go to uni to be a real estate agent.
Yeah.
And true story, I don't know, divine intervention, I literally opened up it was a UAI book, and I opened it up and I went, property economics. And I went, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. And that's the how it started.
And why is property valuation so important?
Valuations are different to a real estate agent's appraisal, and it's very important for people to understand that when a valuer gives their opinion on a piece of paper, that's a legal document. And it's a legal document the same way if a lawyer was to draw up a contract, because when you do that valuation and you address it to whoever's asked for that valuation, so whether it be a bank asking for mortgage purposes, a court asking for an as-is value, it may be a divorce settlement, or the Office of State Revenue for capital gains or stamp duty, that document is a legally binding document. So it's a contract. You've entered into a contract saying this is what I believe your home's worth. And if you're wrong, you can essentially get sued. So it's a big deal. We are seen as the industry experts. So if anybody needs to ascertain a market value, they don't go to an estate agent because they're only licensed to sell. You don't go to a buyer's agent because, again, they're licensed for something different. Where a valuer, we're professionally indemnified and qualified as the expert. Yeah. And that's why we go to court and all sorts of stuff to represent clients.
What services do you provide to your clients?
So I guess a typical valuer would just, I guess they're more on the report writing side.
Yeah.
So it depends on where the instruction came from and what the purpose of the valuation was. So whether it was for mortgage, and each time you get addressed, you have to make sure, addressed to do the report, you have to make sure the report is done in accordance with your standing instructions. So if I was to do it for family law, it has to be addressed for family law purposes. If it was addressed for mortgage, then I have to prepare the report for mortgage purposes.
Right.
And when I started doing my social media, I found that a lot of people would ask me questions that I guess it depends whatever industry you're in, right? Probably you girls as well. You get asked questions and you're like, oh, I just thought everyone knew that. I just, oh, that's easy. I can answer that. And then I found a real gap in the advisory space. And so with now what I do is I do my professional services, which is the valuation and depreciation work. But then I also do advisory service. Like if I was to renovate my home, would I be overcapitalizing if I spent this much on my kitchen? Or my builder just came back with this contract to, put an extension and I can't believe it's so expensive. Am I actually going to get my money back? Or I want to buy an investment property. Where's a good place to invest? And because I'm not affiliated with developers or anything, I just give a really honest, unbiased, professional opinion.
That's quite unique compared to other valuers out there
Yeah.
in going in and actually showing clients how they can add value to their home in a way that's not going to stop them from building wealth?
I'm not saying I'm the only one, because I don't think there is any other valuers out there giving this type of advice, but an average valuer would go into between 5 and 6 homes a day, 6 days a week. And you see a lot. You see homes that are brand new. You see homes that are 5, 10 years old. So you see how renovations age. And every now and then you go into a home, and part of our report you have to ask, how long have you done the renovation? Because there's a section saying for updates. And they'll say, oh, maybe 5 years, 10 years. And then you'll look around and you're like, wow, this has aged so well for 10 years. Like, you could have said last year and I would have believed you, right? And then other times they're like, oh, I've renovated it 3 years ago. And you're like, man, this is already dated. Like, this is, I don't want to say, but it's crap.
We'll
It's
bleep
already,
it out.
it's already crap. Like, it's no good.
Yeah.
So, and then I think like now everybody, when they renovate, they jump on and they see TV shows and they jump on Instagram and Pinterest and they see what's like hot right now. And what they don't understand is that these things that are hot now, they can sometimes make your home feel really dated. So if it hits the market in 10 years' time and I'm a buyer, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, that was so 10 years ago. I have to rip this whole thing out and start again because I want something a bit more up to date. So I just help my clients understand it's okay to get things what you want. It's your home. I want you to be happy, but understand if it's going to, stand the test of time. In my experience, this is as a value or what I see will actually add value. Sometimes they say, I had a client, if you're watching, you wanted to change your windows in your home and it was going to cost you 50 grand. And I said, no, don't change your windows. It's not going to add a single cent to the value because I wanted to sell it. And they're like, oh, but the window. I was like, no. He kept insisting and I'm like, mate, give me the money, physically give me the money, because that's like how much you'll be if you change your windows or you give me the money, it make no difference to you to the end, right? He didn't give me the money. Spewing. I had Europe already planned. I was on the Greek islands by the end of the inspection, but no. And I just went, honest to God, it won't make a difference. And I redirected his attention to something else. And I said, if you're going to spend money, spend it on this. And he was like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about that. And I was like,
tying into that, as a valuer, how do you value renovations? Because someone might do, let's just say, a 30 grand kitchen and it looks amazing and they've used maybe middle range appliances and fixtures, and then someone comes in and, has a Gaggenau, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly.
Yeah, Gaggenau, I think. Yeah, Gaggenau. Miller, Fisher and Paykel, Fisher and Paykel. I've heard it all. I don't even know. Whatever.
And, as a value, do you take note to that?
We take note of all that because in our valuations for the bank, we do a replacement cost. So if they have high-end everything, we have to take that into consideration because we have to then put a figure, even in case that home burns down, because don't forget, until you pay off that last dollar on your home, the bank owns your home. They own the deeds to your home. You're paying the bank back. And once you pay your home off, then they go, okay, thank you. Our contract has now ceased. Here's all your documents. It's your home now. Up until that point, the bank at any moment can repossess your home if you don't make your repayments.
Yep.
And there's nothing you can do about it. So we have to make note of the condition for the insurance replacement, but we also take into account whether we think they've overcapitalized, because whether they put a $50,000 Gaggenau package, and I think there was a house in the block that had one in there, and then the other house, no, that's going to make a difference. And I'm like, it might have helped the marketability. It might have helped sell the home. But even if they spent 50 grand on the appliances, say they got 50 grand more, you didn't make any money. You spend it to make it. Whereas if they spent 20 on Miele, but they made 30, they made money on it. So they might not have made the 50, but they didn't spend the 50 to make the 50. So that's what I try and help people to understand is swimming pools. That's a big one, right? So they'll say, would I add value to my home with a swimming pool? And I said, yeah, you will. But are you spending 150 on a pool to add 70? Yes, you're adding 70 grand to your home, but it's costing you 150. Yeah. Or are you spending 70 grand and adding 150 to your home? So yes, your home has increased in value, but are you getting a return on your money? And that's what I try and help my clients to understand. So same thing with appliances.
Would pools have a lot more value in, let's just say, more regional, rural areas than if they were coastal, or?
The exact opposite. Statistically, homes closer to the water, which is ironic because you could just go to the beach. But the more high end, the more expensive, the newer, and the closer you are to the coast, the market, especially in Sydney, demands a pool.
Right.
Yeah. So if you guys have a lot of high-end homes in the east or wherever and they don't have a pool, clients want it. And they want the pool if they're going to pay top dollar. It's because pools, I've noticed probably the last year, pools are so expensive to put in. And I think the market understands that. And they're like, well, I don't want the hassle of the pool because I heard through the grapevine it can cost upwards of 100 grand now. I'll happily pay that 100 grand in my purchase price, ready to go.
What key factors do you consider as, I guess, the primary focus when valuing a home homes across the board?
I always explain to people when I do a valuation, it's called a market valuation, or I determine market value, right? I don't determine what the home could sell for. I don't determine what someone may pay for it and let's hope and let's push to get to that amount. That is not what I'm doing. I'm inspecting it today and I'm saying this afternoon, if this property was to sell in this exact condition without any furniture, vacant possession, what would it get? And what a lot of people don't understand is when it goes to market or to sale, you clean it up a bit. You fix it up, you paint it, you do your landscaping. But when I value it, I'm valuing it as at today's date. And it's not beautiful and pristine and it is a bit, rough around the edges. But what I'm doing is I'm establishing what the market would pay for it. And the market are people. That's what people forget. They forget when they talk about, when you hear CoreLogic's latest data, and they're like, Sydney increased by 0.73% down, minus all these numbers, all these fractions and percentages, they're just human behavior and interactions. Have what the market is people. So I determine, okay, if this went on the market this afternoon, who are the people that will give up their time to inspect this home and what would they pay for it? What hand would they put in their pocket to pull out and go, yeah, I'm paying 1.8 for this. I'm paying 2.7. Who are they and what would they pay for it? What is that home offering them?
What do banks look for when they are valuing properties? Do they tend to take a more conservative approach?
I'm going to clear this up because I think this is a big misconception. A lot of the time they're like, the bank valued my home. So you have to understand that the bank instruct the valuer and the valuer is 100% at arm's length and not connected to the bank at all. They don't work for the bank. They're not employed by the bank. They've just got a contract with the bank, right? So the bank call up the valuer and like, hello, they don't even do that anymore. There's like a third party now.
Right.
So the bank sends the instruction. It's a big machine. It's called Valex. Send it to Valex. Valex, it's like Russian roulette, will then spit out to like whichever valuation company they have a contract with. So you could be one of the big sort of 4 or 5 companies, one of them being Option, which I sort of work for a couple of days. Let's say they get a job. They'll send their valuer out and they'll have to do a completely 100% independent assessment.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't know who the client is. We got their name, but we don't know how much they're borrowing. We don't know if it's an investment. We don't know if it's a refinance. We don't know if it's a new purchase unless there's a contract. We don't know anything because that's private and confidential information to the bank. So people are like, oh, if we refinance, we'll get a rate. If we go to a whole new bank and get a brand new loan, we get a worse rate. We don't know any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know anything. All we know is we've got an address, we got an estimate of value, and we might have a contract.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. And then we just value it on recent comparable sales. And that's it. And we just do our analysis. We do our assessments. You girls are buyer's agents. Buyer's agents are probably the closest to a valuer, where an agent doesn't really care. They're like, well, whatever, where you're trying to work out what you think the property's really worth. Yeah. And then you guide your buyer onto that.
Yeah.
The difference is if for us, if we think it's worth 2 mil, we don't budge on the 2 mil. Well, you girls could be like, look, I think it's 2 mil, but if you went to like 2.1, it's up to you if you want to pay over and above market, and sort of you're guided by them, right? And if they're like, yeah, I want to go to 2.5 for this, and you're like, I don't recommend that, but they're like, no, I'm hiring you, go for it. Yeah, it's not the same with us.
Yeah.
If we think it's 2, we won't budge on that, because even though it's your home, we're not contracted by you. We're contracted by the bank, and we can get sued by them if we're wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Because their purpose is to lend money.
Which I think is like a really interesting point, because, you know, like you said, vendors, agents, their legal responsibility is to their client to maximize the sale price. And as buyers agents, our responsibility is to ensure our clients are getting the best price for the property, and also not spending above market value unless under instruction they decide to pay a premium for the opportunity. But then when it comes time to the valuations, we often get asked is, do you think this will stack up with the banks?
It's really hard when you have fantastic property that sets the market. It's like the highest sale. And you're like, shit, I don't know if I can justify this, you know, because it's hard. Meet the valuer on site and talk them through the sale, and give them some sales evidence and explain why you went to that figure. Because that will help your client. Then the valuer would be, because this, don't forget, we're doing 5, 6, 7 a day. There's like in and out, in and out, in and out. Some valuers, they can get lazy. They can. Honestly, I'm not. It's a sort of a little bit of a problem we have in our industry. We've got great valuers that know the market inside out, but we have a lot of new valuers that might not, and they can get a little complacent, right? Like just, I can't find sales evidence. Let's just put this figure on it. It's with brand new sales. It's like innocent until proven guilty is what I say. It's like, okay, well, someone's obviously paid this price for it. I'm going to try and prove it.
Yeah.
And the best way is for you to go, look, what you don't see is this is the best home. It was so much demand. Here's some sales, maybe not in this suburb, but in another suburb that I think you should use as a comparison. Basically feed them and get them to base their assessment on it.
Yeah.
It's all about like evidence, like you're going to court. Present the evidence.
This is why we pay this much.
Yeah. And then if you're not happy with a vow, the exact same thing. Get your client to go back with evidence, not, oh, the house down the road. Oh my gosh, if I ever hear that one more time, I promise every time, the house down the road didn't have built-ins and ours has built-ins. So we should be $1 million more. And I just bang my head. I'm like, no one cares about the built-ins, believe me. Or their bedroom was really small and ours was big. And I was like, yeah, but they were north facing and they went on a main road and they were really good and a big old block of land. And so
we get it all the time where agents will use any property just to try and stack up their vendor's dream unrealistic price expectations.
Yeah, it's hard because it's their home.
Yeah.
And we go in completely unemotional. Like we're hardcore, man.
Yeah.
We just go in and we're like, just like a sledgehammer to their dreams. And it's like, we don't care if this is your home. Like, we're here to do it for the bank. And they get confused because a lot of the time they pay for it.
Yeah.
So they think they own it. And they're like, can we have a copy of the report? I'm like, no, you can't. I'm like, speak to your bank.
Yeah.
But the bank won't give it to you because they don't want you to shop around with it. If you're not happy, to then take it to, like, say you went to Westpac and then you take it then to Combank and ANZ and then you shop around. They don't want you to have their valuation. And then we also don't want you to have it because you can't rely on it.
Yeah, okay.
It wasn't addressed to you. It wasn't addressed for you. It was addressed to the bank.
And I suppose the banks have paid for it, so it is their property.
We're contractually obligated.
Yeah.
You just paid the bank back. But you have no legal contractual obligation to me.
Yeah, okay.
You paid them back. You didn't pay them to engage me. It wasn't, you're a third party and our report's not extended to you as a third party.
Moving on from that, what our listeners would really be interested in is what can people do immediately right now to add value to their asset and build wealth?
The biggest bang for your buck, repainting, landscaping, changing your light fittings. Yeah. A lot of pendant lights are out. Rail lights are in. Wall lights are in now. Mood lighting is everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if we can get the lighting changed, repainting, if you can fix your landscaping, and it's not very expensive. It's just like really cleaning it up, new mulch, Facebook Marketplace. Just get some
You
plants.
can buy mulch. Oh my
Yeah, plants. Like people are demolishing homes and they just like
Yeah.
chucking out plants or they bought too much.
Yeah.
Just re-landscape the home. And if you can, sometimes handles
Handles, like door handles.
in the kitchen. Yep,
Yeah,
one of the biggest
nice.
things, because a lot of the budget kitchens, they'll have the stock standard handles and then you just replace them.
So it's primarily more cosmetic things that people can do.
That's a
make
really,
difference.
like you said, something they can do right now.
Yeah.
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 So if you're getting your home ready for maybe to pull out some equity, I would say, I think in today's climate, 10 to 15 would be a good place to kind of start. And then that would probably be the biggest bang for your buck without getting into the hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you also do pre-purchase valuations?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. And unlike a bank val, which is one figure, I give a range.
Okay.
So I will say, this is what I think it's worth. However, yeah, it's a tight market. I get it. But if you go over this, I doubt the valuer would support your figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can stretch it. It's like your stretch target. Like, you know, when you go on a diet and you're like, this is my goal. But if I don't reach my goal, I don't want to be more than this. But if I was really disciplined, this is my ultimate. But I know I'm not running 5 kilometers every day in the cold at 6 a.m. But if I did, I know I would reach this goal.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah.
Or if
yeah.
you're bench pressing, we've all got goals.
We've all got
it's
games
like,
we wanna
it's
make.
like games. It's like that for your house.
Yeah. And would you recommend people in the market that aren't engaging a buyer's agent, would that be something that they should look at doing?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. If you are someone that thinks you can do it on your own and you can't afford a buyer's agent, the next best thing is to at least get professional advice to go in equipped.
Yeah.
So then say, okay, I'm not guessing here. I'm not sick in the stomach. I'm not worried if I've got enough. I'm not sure if I'm, my dreams are crushed. I don't understand the guide because agents are cruel. You're so mean. And with those guides, like, oh, you got offers over 1.9, it sells for 3 million. I'm going to strangle you. I'm going to find you one by one and strangle you agents because they get away with everything, and the valuers are so strict and we can't.
If you're a real estate agent out there, beware. Belinda's coming for you.
Coming for you. The good ones don't have to worry, but I have a carton of eggs. No, I'm joking. I'm a professional all times. So, but yeah, I think it's helping them understand the buyer's guide, what it can sell for. Is there any risk ratings a valuer could come up with?
Yeah.
Is there anything on there that I'm like, you might not mind, but if you were to resell this later on, or if you were to get finance, this could affect your lending. So how much were you going? I was going in at 80%. Well, no, you might need to come up with more of a deposit.
Yeah.
Or I think it's going to be selling at 2, and I'm like, chances are it might push more. I know because it's a lot of demand in this home, but I wouldn't go for 2. I wouldn't go more than 2.4 because the valuer won't justify it. If you want to go 2.4, make sure you got cash to back you up. And that's fine. You go as much as you want, but it may not be at market value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some banks have specific lending requirements relating around suburbs. So, for example, in a highly built up area, they might value that property differently. Do you have the sort of guidelines for which banks have certain parameters, or do you price property based on that?
Well, I don't value for banks anymore for myself because insurance, and I'm not on their panels and I don't want to do mortgage work.
Yeah.
Like Mascot, for instance, it's because banks don't want too much exposure in one building. Okay, because if something goes wrong or if there's a problem, they've got a lot of money tied up in there. Like what happened in Homebush, what happened in Mascot, they don't want to be overexposed. So if there's a new development, just be aware that the bank you think you're going to go with might turn around and say, oh, by the way, when you got the pre-approval, it was fine, but now you're going to settlement and we no longer we've decided not to lend in there, like at the turn of a
Wow.
Yeah. So you just got to be really careful.
Yeah.
And some suburbs, I don't think it's so much suburbs, but it's more buildings. Like if you bought a house in Mascot, that's fine. Like, or an old apartment in Mascot, but a new unit or off the plan or something, just be really careful.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd recommend it anyway. Side note, asterisk, this isn't financial advice, but just do your research. Do your research. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Any stories you can share with us around massive wins for your clients, but also, you know, tying into that, I guess, what people should be mindful of?
Massive wins for my clients are with me. I don't like to give a valuation report unless I have to. So they'll come to me and they're like, can I have a pre-purchase valuation? And I will say, do you want the advice or do you want the document? Because if they want the document, then like a valuation firm, they will do the document and they will hand it to them. And then they pick it up and they're like, cool, now what? Or they wouldn't understand how to interpret it because it's a legal document. And then they put it down and then they'll go to bid and they go, well, the valuation had from this point to that point. I say to them, well, let's sit down and actually talk about why I came up with these figures and what sales and educate them around the market, the area, the house. And then I say, well, it's going to take me 2 hours to compile the report. Let's just sit down and have a chat for 2 hours and I'll explain my findings to you. And that is a massive win. And then we talk about ways to add value because they'll say, okay, well, we're going to buy it, but we want to spend and we want to do this and this and this and this to it. And then I'll help them understand if that's going to add value. So it's the advice. That's the big win.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time too, they get more out of that than they do with the document. Yeah. And it's pretty much the same price. I'm like, do you want the document? Or do you want the advice? So, and that's why I started working on my own.
Yeah. No, I think your model is super advantageous for anyone that's either looking to purchase a property or has purchased a property and they're like, okay, what's next? How do I build wealth? How do I, you know, get 2 bites of the cherry, if you like, in, you know, capital growth and
well, because of my being a
equity.
tax agent, I also help them understand if they like what kind of capital gains they're up against. What, you know, a lot of the time people inherit a property and then you might have like 2 or 3 siblings and one wants to keep it and the other 2 want to buy the other one out. I do stamp duty valuations for them too. So anytime there's no agent involved in a sale, so say you guys bought a house together and then Kelly, you wanted to buy Courtney out, you'll need a stamp duty valuation on it. So that's because that property was never exercised in the open market. So it wasn't open to the market paying market value for it. So they'll go, okay, we need a value to establish what it's worth to pay your taxes. So you can exchange for $1. That's fine. There's no law against that.
I would buy you out for $1, Kel.
She's worth more than that, guys.
Oh, I don't know.
Priceless.
All right, $1.50.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you can buy a person out for nothing if you want, but it's the tax because the tax man doesn't want to miss out on the tax.
Right. Before we finish up, what are the different types of valuations that people can get? I mean, we've spoken about obviously valuations for finance, stamp duty valuations.
Looking for a val in finance. Capital gains, stamp duty. Compulsory acquisition is a big one.
Okay.
So if the government knocks on your door and they want to take part of your land for a new highway, they want to take all your land, all the M5, M8 works that's going on. We do compulsory acquisition, so it's a just terms compensation act that we have to follow. So it's not just this is what you think your home's worth and then you pay it out. There's actually a legislation behind it that you've got to follow. Anyway, I won't get into that. So you can do it for that. You can, let's say your neighbour's fence is 35 centimetres on your side of the land and you need to get paid out. You get a valuation done on it.
Right.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah. Sometimes you want to lift a covenant or an easement off title. That needs a valuation done, so you do easement valuations. Sometimes, when you've got battle axe properties and you've got right of carriageway, sometimes you want to, one party wants to pay the other party out to actually acquire that land.
Yeah.
So all sorts of stuff. So anything that's land value
Okay, so since I haven't spoken, I would like to chime in a little bit.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
How are you?
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us.
It's the Belinda and Courtney show.
Yeah. So you have a very large following on TikTok, and how many followers do you have?
134,000.
A miser.
What? A lot of people.
Yeah.
A lot of people follow me. I don't know how many stuck around and just haven't unfollowed, but they hit the follow button. So
You're very informative and entertaining. So what is your TikTok handle so that any of our listeners can follow you?
okay, so if you get a pen and a paper, you're going to write down the THE valuer. I made it super easy so everyone can find me because I think not very many people know what a valuer is. So if you think of the valuer, my face, my name will pop up. So yeah, super simple.
Well, we cannot thank you enough for joining us. Anyone out there listening that wants to go and follow Belinda on socials and get more of an insight into what a valuer does and how they can add value to not only the property purchase, but also in building wealth through renovation or just natural capital growth, please contact Belinda.
So much fun, guys. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Little did anyone know, Courtney just had an emergency.
She nearly died, guys.
It was close.
I don't want to be
Hospital
dramatic,
needed to come,
but I had to leave.
immediately.
I had to leave and get her a protein ball. It was stressful. I had to cross the road by myself.
I fainted. I couldn't help it. I fainted. I passed out by your presence.
I have that
Yeah,
effect
your
on
presence
people.
is a present and I collapsed. I just felt
I know.
And that's a wrap.
Yeah.